Hey everyone, and welcome to the finals for the Dominions tournament. And yeah, we are playing as the Omniscience Nation, and this is a mod nation you can put in the game, and it is going to basically whoever is playing it is basically going to have no impact on the game, but they get to watch. They're going to have like 1,000 stealth scouts everywhere. These guys. So the only impact they have on the game is they can potentially be targeted by Mind Hunt. Otherwise, I think that basically this nation's basically invisible. And I have edited a map nuke map to put in a basically unconnected province here where I am situated. So that is me, the caster. I'm not actually playing the game. I'm just watching and casting. And everybody else in the game. We are going to go through all the nations real quick. This is actually turn 4. Turn 1, nothing happened. I mean, turn 0, yeah, turn 1, nothing happened. And then turn 2, I didn't have... I guess my scouts were kind of out turn 2. Yeah, anyway, we're going to start here because I didn't turn on my backup for all the turns, so we haven't missed much, but we'll go through the nations real quick. First off, so we're playing in Middle Age, and so this is Middle-Aged Pythian. Middle-Aged Pythium is a very strong communion nation. They have these really cheap S1s, and then they have Therugs, which are pretty versatile. They have air and water, and then they have Arch-Therugs, which have air and water, but then they get these cross paths. They can get fire, basically, to add in communions. These guys can also mind hunt pretty well. They have Hydras, which are not sacred, unlike the late-age Pythium Hydras. But then they have pretty solid troops. They have the Princeps, which are pretty solid. I'm not really an expert on it, but they have assassins they can get, and they have Retarius. They also have really cool national summons. So pretty strong nation, I would say. But human. Then we have Middle-Aged Ulm. I think you guys know about Middle-Aged Ulm. If you don't, you should. But they're basically the most heavily armored nation in the game. And then they get really cool stuff like Iron Blizzard, and they have ridiculously good forge bonuses, so they can produce gear super duper cheap. Very cool nation. We have Middle-Aged Cetis, which they are very good against people who are not prepared for poison resistance. So like these previous two nations we were talking about, they're human nations without a lot of sacreds, which means they're going to get wrecked by Foul Vapors when that comes online early. Especially like those previous two nations, if they don't have poison resist, nature mages to eventually get up economical serpent's blessings everywhere. Cetis also, middle-aged Cetis also poisons people who come into their dominion, or diseases them, and they get an income bonus. I would say very strong nation. We also have middle-aged Vana Ruse, the arrival of man. They have dwarven smiths, who are master smiths. They're good at forging things, and then they can forge fire, air, earth, and death. And they add earth access to the nation. And then they've got Van Drots, who are your powerful air mages. And then they have Van Jarls, who are your kind of mid-tier thug. They can do Mist Form and other stuff and Cloud Trapeze really easily. And then you have the Van Hers, who's the super budget thug. And then for troops, they have a bunch of cool stuff. They have Einherrs, who are kind of like the Van Herses, the Van Heers of early age, but they're not sacred. But they have 2 choppy axes and they go berserk. And then they have Skin Shifters, who are kind of cool because they turn into... I guess they turn into a wolf. I don't actually remember them having Skin Shifters, but that's cool. Valkyries, they're sacred and they fly. And then they have Vans, who are, I think these are cap only, yeah. So, basically just sacred cavalry units. But anyway, it's a strong nation. They have I think they have a fair amount of stealth. I know the Vans are still stealthy. I don't know if the Valkyries are stealthy. But yeah, these troops are not. So anyway, it's a mix of stealth and non-stealth, but you can definitely get elfed really hard as playing against Vanheim. Next up, we have the new Jotunheim, because this is post-patch. And so yeah, all of the cool new sprites. And then they've got these guys. So Jotunheim's different. They have these guys who are size 4. And like a lot of the Jotun themed nations now, they're shock susceptible. And then these guys have frost protection 1 and 20 protection. So these guys are pretty solid. 100 gold is pretty pricey too, though. So I don't know. I like them. I don't even know how to say this though. And then these are the skin shifters. So pretty cool. I think these got removed from Niflheim and basically given to these guys. And then down here we have the Jotun Herdmen. Anyway, we're not going to go through all the units, but pretty cool nation. They also have hags, which give you very cheap kind of chaff mages. They have Gaijas, and then which are kind of pretty good in communions. And okay, depending on the different paths at buffing up troops. And then you have Scrotty, who are of course your thugs. And then you have Grimsgoads, who are, or however you say it. I'm not sure the correct use of these guys. They have cold power and ice protection, so they could probably thug. They don't have great magic pass, though. Anyway, they're in the game. We have Vana Ruse, which is kind of the Vanheim Bogarus, or not Bogarus. Oh well, it's the elf, the Russian elves, basically. And yeah, so they've got these guys, the Chud Herdmen, which hit really hard. They're kind of like the Van Heers of early age. They've got the Chud Skin Shifters, which are kind of like Ruse's early age units, and that they turn into bears. They're not sacred. And then these are their sacreds, the Oathbounds, who I think are pretty mediocre. They have Glamour, which is kind of cool. But they're cap only. Oh, they're okay. Anyway, cool nation. I think they get a lot of the Van summons too. I mean, the Ruse summons too. So that opens up cool stuff like Firebirds, and there's a lot of really cool Rusian summons. So they're in the game. Then we've got the monkeys, and I love Bandarlog. So very cool to see how these guys get played. Bandarlog has access to recruit anywhere sacreds, and then they have pretty good cap-only sacreds, and then they have a wide variety of troops. They have some critical weaknesses, though, like low MR, and they're all animals, which opens them up to things like Beast Mastery in the mid-late game. But yeah, they also have really cheap mages, so really cheap astral mages that are sacred too. So extremely efficient astral mages. This is probably one of the most efficient astral mage chassis in the game. So you can potentially control the astral magic on the battlefield with magic duel and stuff with these guys. But anyway, very cool nation. They have really cool summons, so looking forward to seeing how they play. And then we have End. And End is a very crazy nation, which we're not going to be able to get into, but basically you have your cap, where you get a bunch of everything sacred that comes out of your cap. Basically all the End troops are sacred and auto-blessing. And then depending on the terrain that's in adjacent provinces or nearby provinces, you recruit different types of units. So very cool mechanic. Next up we have Neba. And these guys are pretty cool. They're a mix between they're like desert nomads, right? And so they're semi-elf. A lot of them have glamour. Some of them even have this ability Obfuscate, which hides part of their army. It's like basically it's going to hide non-stealthy units that you mix into your army, so you're completely invisible. And then next up, and they have really strong air and fire magic, and then okay earth. And then they have pretty okay astral. They don't have high astral, but they have abundant astral, because you have these guys. Next up, we have Middle-Aged Atlantis. So I think you've all hopefully seen me play Middle-Aged Atlantis. And we also have Yis. So Map Nuke tends to spawn ocean nations together. So these are the two ocean nations that are in the game. And Yis is interesting because they're an ocean nation, but they're typically in many ways stronger on land than they are in water. I mean, they're no slouches underwater, but on land they're just disgusting, because these guys get basically a built-in firebrand attack when they're on land. But yeah, it's definitely a strong nation. They're very dependent on the Morvark Knights at the beginning, who take a lot of resources and a lot of gold, but they're extremely good. Extremely good. Okay, and then next up we have me. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about the format we're going to do for going through these turns. I'm going to try to keep it quick. At the beginning, no, I guess we'll do it. We'll do it all from like we did with the new casting game, but we're going to be going basically capital by capital and seeing what's going on. So we'll start with let's start with Neba. So Neba, they had their second expansion this turn, and they're expanding with a lot of these camel riders and then archers, and then they have a few infantry up front. Camel riders are special because they have these birds that are going to come and fly down and distract the enemy, kind of lock them into place while the archers shoot at them. And then the soldiers run forward, and the archers, you can see this working pretty well. They're going to take a few losses because these guys, the archers are kind of firing at these guys, and these guys are very weak if they're receiving archer fire. So if we look at the kill count, yeah, they lost 5 camels and 4 desert riders, or desert warriors. And the camels are pretty expensive. They're $22 a piece. So, you know, this is like 150 gold lost. These guys are 7, so. You know, I mean, expansion's working, but taking a few losses. I think what you want to try to do in a situation like this maybe is try to lure the archer fire more with your shielded guys. You really don't want your archers getting hit. They're really soft. They have hardly any armor and like no shield. So they very much melt to archer fire. So that's Neba. Let's come over here and see what's going on in the Monkey Land. So in Monkey Land, this is their second expansion. Now, to be in this game, you needed to have gotten first or second place in the preliminary round, in round 1. And it turns out a lot of people ended up kind of doing it, like, a lot of times, first a weird situation where first and second, kind of position 1 and position 2 ended up kind of colluding. Because if you were position 1 and 2, you were basically guaranteed a seed into the next round. So that actually happened in almost all the games, which is kind of interesting, because, you know, there's not much time for the meta to shift, but it shifts like immediately. You know, like normally that doesn't happen, but people didn't take long for people to figure that out, that that's what they wanted to do. Okay, the Markata are running, as Markata do, but the Tiger Riders bravely fighting on. So if we look at this, there was not much in this expansion party. The starting army for Bandarlog is garbage. So being able to take this wasn't a very hard province, but I bet Bandarlog is pretty happy with this. I bet you he was like, well, I might not take it, but better than coming home. So he's gone and gotten this. At home, it looks like he's building up more Atavi infantry and Tiger Riders, which is probably okay. Moving along, we've talked about Neba. Time to come over to Vana Ruse. And Vana Ruse is expanding out with what? His starting army, with a few Oathbound, it looks like. Oh no, these are Chud Herdmen. So these are the choppy Chuds. They've got the sword and the axe. They're kind of blendering the front line. You can see every time these two squares swing, it's just devastation. They do go berserk, so this guy's berserk. Gets a little bonus to stats here. Unfortunately, he's diseased, so he's not long for the world. Diseased is a death sentence. So he lost 5 Huskarls and 1 Herdman. It's probably okay. I wouldn't say super. I wouldn't say super clean. It looks like he's also gotten the Raiders of the Silver Steppe, and that's going to be pretty good. He should be able to get at least 1 expansion, maybe. I'm not sure. These are a little risky. I think you can get the barbs by just shooting them, and then they'll run in and get the lance charges, but it'll be a little risky, I think. But that's probably the one I would go for. Back at home, shit, I don't know if I'm actually able to see all the elves. I don't think I'm able to see the Glamored units. So that will be hidden to us. But he's probably making... Are these guys glamored? No. What is he making? The Oathbound are glamored. Because there's nothing at home. He's probably making Oathbound. So we'll see. But it could just be Chud Herdman. Could be that. It'd be very few, because he's going to have like a May... I don't know. We'll find out. But so far, he's looking okay. He's the only player we've come across so far that looks like they have 2 solid expansion parties. Ulm... I would say expansion for Ulm is very easy. It's a little slow out of the gate because you got to worry about resources, but they just mulch troops so badly. So the battle report here, they lost 3 guys, took out 30. Not bad. And Ulm is on 2 provinces. Because we're playing on an 11-player map, is that right? Yeah, an 11-player map. And if you play on an even number map, you're typically going to get a nice grid and start layouts. But all the provinces are not on a grid. Like you can see, these 2 aren't north. They're not on the same linear axis of provinces here. So anyway, it's a little bit the same for, I think it's mostly the same for the left and right. But anyway, that's going to affect how we march from left to right through the map. So anyway, we bounced from Vana Ruse down here to Ulm. We'll bounce back up to Jotunheim. So Jotunheim is expanding. These are a bunch of skin shifters in front. Or maybe not. Oh no, these are skin shifters. Sorry, I don't know the new names very well, but they look like skin shifters. So that's pretty clever. You got the skin shifters in the front. They'll take a few hits, turn into wolf form. That guy's definitely about to pop. Oh, he didn't go. And yeah, they charge in. So that, I think, was very clean. No losses. In their capital... Oh my gosh. Look at Ind. Oh my gosh, Ind is going crazy. So... let's cover Ind now, because Ind's expanded here. They've got their second expansion party out. Let's check out the Bless. They have got magic weapons, attack skill +2, poison resistance 5, defense skill +3, magic resistance, undying 6, HP 2, strength 2, blood surge combat speed. So all of that said, still very mediocre stats. Now, when they get Blood Surge, it's going to be significantly better. But they don't have any kind of night vision. They're fighting in a cave. That's part of why their stats are this garbage. Some of these guys have Blood Surge on now. So their stats are going to be 3 better for... Okay. It's like their stats are very unimpressive. Pale ones have crappy stats too, though. So that was actually lossless. Nice. Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel like we're gonna get a lesson in how to play Ind here. Because they've got 3 they expanded 3 times this turn. No one else is even close. So these are mercs. Oh, they got lucky here. They're getting their ass kicked, but they got a lucky rat on the barbs. They may be able to take this it's probably what they're going to give a shot to. Unlikely, but possible they take that. And they're mercs, so they're not going to care if they lose them. Okay. Here, okay, we already watched this. This was the Pale One battle. So the first expansion party came south this way, and then the second one they sent out this turn to take this. Here's the first one. They've got the archers in the front. And magic weapons actually helps with arrows. It gives you a better chance to, I think, dodge shields. And we'll take a look at these guys' stats once they go Blood Surge. Okay. Yeah, 17, 19, 18. Yeah, so pretty solid stats. And then with Undying on a human unit, it's going to make a big difference. So, yeah, they just tear these troops up. It's going to be lossless, I think. Oh, they lost one soldier priest. So, anyway, it looks like End, so far, in the nations we've looked at, is just breaking away with extremely quick expansion. Okay, so we were Jotunheim and then Naba. Okay, so we've kind of hit this row. Let's come down. We've done Ulm. Let's do Atlantis. So Atlantis, they have expanded this way with their... So they have a worm. Let's check out their god. Their god is a Water 4, Earth 6 worm. And the Bless... I guess can we not see it? I guess we can't see it here, can we? I think this is a hard skin Bless. So Earth Might, which actually is pretty good because he has 2 attacks, so it gets a pretty significant damage buff. And these Venomous Fangs, Death Poison will, if you just take a glancing hit from Death Poison, you're basically done. And the worm has built-in regen. Unfortunately for this worm, it apparently has acquired a chest wound already, and it does not have recuperation. So that is unfortunate for it. And it's not exactly going to be the kind of thing which Atlantis can remedy immediately. These sorts of issues can be dealt with, but not quickly. Oh, no. But this is interesting. So they have beelined it from Atlantis out here towards Ys, who is their lake partner. And this turn, which only turned 4, they are in Ys's cap circle. So I would call this an extremely aggressive move. Now, this actually represents a very large problem for Ys. And the problem for Ys is that Ys is basically reliant on these Morvark Knights. But to get the Morvark Knights, they take a ton of resources. So they really are going to need their cap circle. And now they're going to have a worm in their cap circle. And then potentially he also has to worry about this worm jumping on top of his capital. Because the worm probably could. It'll be enemy dominion, but I don't think this worm will have much of an issue taking out 25 PD unsupported. So the problem when you get rushed like this is you get pulled in so many directions. Because on one hand, Ys needs to expand out and get his cap circle so he has resources to get more Morvarks. Like, you have to build that positive feedback loop of, you know, getting more resources, getting more Morvarks until you can expand really quickly. So on one hand, he needs to do that. On another hand, he needs to take back provinces that Atlantis is going to take from him. And on the third hand, he needs to be worried about Atlantis getting on top of his capital. Because if Atlantis gets on top of his capital, then the game's basically over for Ys. So it'll be interesting to see what Ys does. But it's not a very good situation for them. But that being said, it's a little bit on a knife's edge for Atlantis, because if Atlantis loses their god, then they've sacrificed a lot of expansion back here, because you can see they're just pulling all their troops this way. So it will be interesting. What is in this army? We've got mainly Atlantean shield bearers, Atlantean light infantry, and a Shambler chief, which is... So this is just the starting army. And then here is Mother Guard, and then a Coral Queen. Okay. So Coral, that's one of the things Atlantis gets that's pretty good, is they get these Coral Queens, who are basically Holy Threes. They're pretty cheap. I lied, they're not cheap at all. They're 265 gold, but they're... But basically, they're going to be better than a mage in the very early game, because they can spam out smite, etc. And these will be good, I think, for Atlantis, because if he's playing really aggressively and he's going to go move off, one thing Yiss is going to want to try to do is Yiss is going to try to like take back stuff that Atlantis has taken from them. Well, a few Coral Queens behind PD will go a long way to doing that, because Morbark's kind of mulch through PD, but they're going to have a little bit of issue with getting hit by like 2 or 3 smites a turn. So that's that. Yiss, meanwhile, they didn't have a battle here. I think this was an expansion from last turn. And I think they're waiting to make a move. I think they were looking at these and they were like, well, Triton Guard, these are pretty shitty troops. I don't know. It looks like they decided to not expand this turn. And an expansion for Yiss in the very, very beginning is rough, because they really are resource constrained. So, anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So anyway, this is Yiss, and then coming over here, we have Pythian. Okay, now Pythian, oh, we didn't do Bandar Log. Oh, we did do Bandar Log. Okay, Pythian. So Pythian tried to expand into... Oh no, he's pinging this. I was going to say, you have to be a little careful expanding into Bloodhenge Druids. There's no Darkvines here, which are the frequent friends of Bloodhenge Druids. Oh no, these are just Woodhenge. Okay, that's why. It's okay. This isn't actually not that hard of a province. And then they expand up here. This Pythian actually has a pretty solid starting army. It's kind of clever. 2 gladiators on guard commander in case they get flanked. There's javelins just doing huge amounts of work. That was pretty clean. Only lost 1 guy. So Pythian looking very solid. A little slow. He's building up a lot of gladiators. I don't know where he's going to send them. And some legionnaires. Yeah, hard to guess. He's got a kind of interesting starting spot because he's got these 2 caves nearby, which are a little awkward expanding into with humans. And on one hand, he needs to break south. So it'll be interesting. It's a kind of weird, like these Lavaborns are hard. I would probably not go to this province for a while. The Zots are not that hard. I think this is actually reasonably easy, but it's not a ton of income. I think ideally you want to take this, come south and hit all of this up. But it'll be interesting to see what he does. So far it looks like he hasn't taken much attrition. And then there's Ulm. We need to do Vana Ruse now. So Vana Ruse, okay, I think he's found some Bloodhenge Druids. These, oh no, these are Woodhenge. So the Vans run in at the very beginning. Now, a risk with these Vans is they could get hit by Tangleroot or whatever. If they kill these commanders, the battle's over. But right now, these guys are surrounded, which is, you know, not the ideal situation you want these guys in. What is this guy doing? Oh, he's been put to sleep. And this guy's running back. He's not going to kill the commander. Oh, and these 2 guys dying. It's not good. Sleep just doing some hard work. Oh man, this is a disaster. These guys totally should have won this fight. What happened was the Vans got split up. They didn't finish the attack rear. They ended up coming back, and they got put to sleep. So, I mean, it's really the worst case scenario. Oh my gosh. This is a complete disaster. A complete disaster for Vanheim. It makes you wonder, I mean, it's the kind of disaster that's hard to come back from. Because that early cycle of like taking provinces, getting more resources, getting bigger armies, you do not want to have break this early. And if it breaks, it's really important you have some of your army left over to start building that cycle up again, but everything was killed. What do you do as Van? I think in Van's situation, I think you have to shit out a ton of your cheap troops, because right now you're going to have plenty of money, but you're going to be heavily resource constrained. So whatever your lowest resource troop is, you just need an enormous number of these. And you just have to kind of buy your way back into the game. Oh boy. That's a zinger right there, guys. That is a zinger. Okay. So will be interesting to see how he... The thing, too, like not having a god or anything, like if you're doing... A lot of people are doing scales expansion, which I like. But... Oh man, it's going to be hard to come back from that. Okay, we've done end. Satis looks like they're doing it. This looks like their first expansion. Either that or they failed expansion in the previous turn. So they've got these militia, which are garbage, but they have shields and javelins. Which sometimes that's all you need. And then they've got these guys, I forget what they're called. Sobek guards? Yeah. Let's take a look at their bless, because I think these guys were blessed. They've got, ooh, poison, really? Okay. Satis doesn't need poison resistance, it's kind of nice. Poison resistance, cold resistance, defense skill, MR2, HP1 blood surge, okay. So rainbow bless, a lot of rainbows. We see Pythian's bless. Let's just go through and check, see if we saw. Oops. Okay, Pythian has shock resistance, poison resistance, fire resistance, cold resistance, reinvigoration, penetration. This is for the communion slaves, right? So this is so that if battlefield-wide wipes come up, his mages, which a lot of which are sacred, are not going to die. That's exactly what this is for. And then the reinvigoration and penetration bonuses for the communion. All in all, I approve. And oh, Middle Age Pythium has Therod Communicants, which are basically units you produce. I think they're sacred too. Yeah. These guys. So you recruit them as troops, but they function as basically communion shackled mages, communion slaves, and communions. So guys, oh gosh, I hope I've covered everyone. I would hate to have left somebody out in our opening debut episode. But I'm pretty excited about the game. It'll be interesting because it's going to be pretty high skill, considering the people in it who... A lot of the people, like, to get in the first round, most of the people in the first round had to have won another multiplayer game. So that's like the first level of screening. Second level of screening is you had to kind of win or get second in that first game. And then, so it should be a pretty high skill game. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And we've got just some patterns I'm noticing so far. We've got most people doing scales expansion. We've only got one awake expander, and the person doing that awake expander is bum rushing the shit out of their neighbor. And then we've got very different rates of expansion. We've got, I'd say right now, End is clearly in the lead with just lightning style expansion. So, and End has a fair amount of room, it looks like, you know, they've got, I think End's going to be enormous because they've got Vanheim as a neighbor, and Vanheim's completely failed. So even if Vanheim does everything right from here out, it's going to be a real struggle for them to get their feet back under them. So that's going to give a lot of room. Naba will be okay. And then they've got over here Jotunheim, who's doing okay, but it doesn't look like it's going to be lightning fast expansion from Jotunheim. Yeah, I mean, End has already taken this province 2 away from Jotunheim and 3 away from End. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, anyway, it's been cool. We'll see you next time, though. Take care, guys.